You are now tuned in to Zone 3 Podcast, and we have Matthew Hayes with ScanLab Imaging U at AHRA. Super excited about some of the new stuff. You always get us pumped.
Thanks.
So, what's going on, man?
A couple new things.
Yeah?
Yeah, we talked about this at one point, but the hiring tool and the staff assessment has really been something we've really focused on as well. How can we talked last time about cross-training.
You're right.
And how quickly we can do that. But what about the staff you've already got? What are their strong points? What are their weak points? How do we make the most of that? How do you make sure that you are hiring that person with 100% accuracy?
Right.
And so some new things that we're really focusing on these days is statistical metrics. So science-based stuff, not like, hey, we're going to give you a ScanLab score of X, but really now we can start to statistically rank you in region and...
Whenever someone says statistics, it just brings back to high school, so sorry.
Push those feelings down. In this case, same thing. We have them go through and do a YouTube video to be able to figure out, make sure they understand ScanLab.
Right.
And they go back through and they're taking this skill assessment. So, and we typically do like brain, knee, lumbar spine. It can be anything that anybody wants to. If there's a cardiac facility that really focuses on cardiac, we can do the same thing here.
Cool.
But a typical, you'll see that we don't have any answer criteria here. We don't have any page number to be able to see. We want to see who you are really right now. Get a nice screenshot of who you are.
Show us what you got. Right?
Yeah, exactly. So do you understand slice thicknesses? Do you really know your TRs and your TEs for T1? And so in this case, and remember we talked about this. You can choose
3T.
If you're more comfortable on 1.5 or 3T, you can choose that. We do have other relaxivities and settings that we're working on, but it's not quite at the top of our list right now.
Okay.
So this is a really good way for you to tell if this person, if they can follow directions, if they are in terms of detail oriented. So T1 spin echo sequence without fat suppression. So now I'll go ahead and scan this, and this is super important. This is something I've been thinking about. Right now, it's very interesting. A lot of what we're trying to do these days are change the minds of radiology administrators. Like they don't have. They're used to working retrospectively. They're used to hiring someone, doing their best, and then they have budget to be able to train that person or fire that person.
The whole 90 days rule, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so what we're trying to get people to really understand and go after is what can you do ahead of time? What funds can you allot to be able to never be behind the curve?
Right.
And so in this case, same thing. We've already acquired our sagittal. In this case, remember we have the drop-down menu here to where if you have the AC/PC line versus the perpendicular to the cord, you can be able to choose what it is that you're doing. So here I think we've asked for a T2, and we have ranges, of TRs and TEs with fat suppression. So I'm gonna go down and make sure we hit fat suppression here. Yeah. So in this case, once again, typically this would take with a TR of 5,000, let's say we have 2 averages or so. This is typically going to take about, in real life, going to take, I don't know, 4 or 5 minutes, 3-4 minutes, depending on what you've got.
Easily, right?
We're doing it in about 16, 17 seconds. Hey, Katie.
Hi.
So there we go. We're seeing the axial, exactly what you would deserve.
Oh, yeah.
And remember, it's not just about the big thing here. The big thing that we're really starting to focus on is tech waste.
Right.
Now, that's never been quantifiable just yet.
Right.
But now it is. I'll show you what I mean here in a minute. But how much does, if a tech consistently
overscans?
If they overscan, everybody's like, oh, that's no big deal.
Right.
No big deal, because I'd rather have too much than too little. So keep that in mind. So when this person goes through, and I can go through a little ahead. Same thing. Something else we've added here inside of, let's say you do something proprietary that nobody else does and that we haven't covered in ScanLab, you'll see at the end of these exams, after this comes out, you'll see it switch and it has an optional scan here, I believe in a second. Yeah, so if there's something proprietary that only you guys do, you could have that person, you can instruct them on what you want to scan, what TR, what TE range, that kind of thing.
Oh, that's awesome.
So that's a little bit of a way that we've started to kind of think about how we kind of form fit this to our customers.
Right.
So I think I go ahead and skip here at this point, and then we go, and inside of here, now we have the time.
Okay.
So if I'm not doing this with you, if I'm not watching this with you, I want to make sure that you're not taking time to look up the answers and your scores are better than they normally would be. So we give a certain amount of time, and typically if we're doing like a hiring tool, we have about 60 or 70 questions that are statistically proven to separate different people at different tiers of knowledge.
Oh.
And so that's what we're super excited about.
Oh, wow.
We saw this one, I just thought it was cool to put this in. Just remember, this is a way for us to be able to quantify how well someone really understands contrast-enhanced angiography before you hire them.
Nice.
So the real thing, and we'll talk about this, I believe, on our episode.
Oh, yeah.
When it comes to time to center.
Angio.
When it comes to time to center. But again, there's a little button down here that I'm telling it when to actually stop fluoro and actually start scan.
Right.
And just like we talked before, one of the big things that cause callbacks are not really recognizing pathology.
Right.
And so, like I said, just these are things we're trying to train people on and test them to where we reduce callbacks. We're able to really get a good idea. We're also cross-referencing the time that the person takes to be able to type in their TRs and TEs, and also the amount of slices that they do to also give see that the person doesn't see their overall score. It goes directly to their hiring manager.
Right.
And so at this point, you can now go back through and you can be able to look at these people. Now, this is some of the new stuff that we've got. So now, based off of everybody that has come through and done a scan lab, you can be able to see the Gaussian distribution. Let me go back here just a little bit. You can be able to see the Gaussian distribution of an individual cohort. So typically, if you're an average cohort, then you would be in the 50th percentile.
All right.
But here, our median range is at 73%. So this is a pretty solid cohort.
Oh, yeah.
And you're separating, and you're also grading them based off of the global average of ScanLab throughout our 68 universities and our 18,000 examinations that people have taken so far.
Oh, 73% is great then.
Yeah, but this is also something I think is really, really cool, is that before, you've got your ScanLab scores, that's fine. But now this is super, super important and very, very new for us.
Right.
We can actually tell you inside of a brain, let's say I've given you the same brain 3 or 4 times, how much do you deviate angle-wise from yourself? So, and then we can cross-reference that for every person at your hospital. So if you and me and Katie and Robert, if we are all going to scan the same patient,
like a seizure or something,
whatever,
right?
I mean, if that patient comes back for 3 or 4 time points, how consistent are we scanning by ourselves, and how consistently are we scanning to each other?
Right.
And so if the person was perfect to the ScanLab angle, then they would have no deviation. So this person, for a brain, this is amazing actually.
Right.
This person, we can now start to separate individual skills from not just being so vague as just a high or a low ScanLab score. Right. Now we're starting to be able to tell your deviation, and we'll come out with your slice coverage. Do you constantly overscan? Do you constantly underscan? And this person, we have our global average. So that means that across those 3 angles that we did inside of ScanLab, that means that this person is near perfect. So for 3 angles that they've chosen, they're only off sometimes by 1.5 degrees for everything, which is groundbreaking.
Right.
So
must be AI or something.
Then we see, no, it's just we invest in humans. We don't invest in AI right now.
Wow, we appreciate that.
AI is doing fine.
Right.
That's fine. But this is something that is true consistency. It is not a reliant on a dot engine, because no one's going to have dot engines for every single part of their body.
Exactly.
So you can see that this person is well above his cohort average, which is still solid. 3 degrees is the average of the people inside of his cohort. And every single person that's throughout the world that's taken these ScanLab exams, that's our global average. So our global average to see is still 6 degrees. And that's not bad. I mean, but this person is a star. I mean, I want this person.
I mean,
we said we weren't going to disclose who it was.
You're right.
And so this is what leads me to my next thing. So let's say, hypothetically, this person inside of their ScanLab, there are 2 or 3 assessments that we do, because we in order to get an angulation consistency, we have to do multiple time points.
Right.
So if you're hiring somebody, we just do one time point and you see who they are.
Right.
But if you have your staff that you want to assess and see what are the possibilities to be able to improve them,
where they can,
we do two brains, 2 knees, we do morning, sir. We do 2 brains, 2 knees, 2 lumbars, everything like that, so we can start to get the angulation consistency and the consistency of, because it's one thing to do a one-off and good job.
Exactly.
But it's another thing to actually consistently do anything.
Right.
So let's say this person, and this is nuts. Let's say this person overscans by 3 slices for every axial every axial brain.
Okay.
Okay. And everybody's like, oh, that's no big deal. And you're like,
yeah, 3 slices, huh?
So what we can do now, and this is a manual process right now, but so what we can do is we get the TRs, we get the averages, we get everything that has anything to do with time. And so in the very near future, you will be able to see, so basically everything that affects time. So now I can see that in this case, this person, they have on all axials, they have 3 slices too many, and this is real data.
Oh wow!
So every single time. So now I can tell per slice that's 5.6 seconds. So as a whole, for each one of these, because on your brain you have different axial slices. Right. So now we can be able to reverse engineer how much every single slice costs you. So then at the end of the day, for this person, they were costing us total wasted time per brain, 169 seconds, 3 minutes.
Right.
Not a big deal if you look at it one by one. But when you start to look at, if we're scanning 6 patients a day, all of a sudden, per week, per month, and we take your reimbursement, which is proprietary that we keep secret, we can be able to tell you this person will cost you $74,000 in billable time by scanning 3 slices too many just in the brain.
Right. Wow.
So, and that's the thing about ScanLab that we can be able to tell you how much of the brain that you have either, in millimeters, how much you've overcompensated for. Then we do some other things that I can't completely talk about, but then we'll be able to tell you just in the brain how much this is going to cost you.
Man.
So that's really where we're headed when it comes to skill assessment, when it comes to staff assessment, and consistency. Right. We're really excited we're starting to have some chats with some meaningful conversations with pharmaceutical companies, because so far, if you think about it, if you ever do like Alzheimer's studies, you ever do anything like that,
Sure.
What we're doing is checking to see how effective a drug is in terms of brain size and that kind of thing. So one of the big things that no one talks about is that consistency, that angulation, because right now you have somebody that builds a protocol and they send it away and they say yes or no, but they haven't accounted for the 9 techs that are going to be scanning any one of those patients at any time of day. Right. And so we feel like the future of fMRI, the future of any kind of longitudinal study, rather than taking an ACR approach of, hey, we're going to accredit your magnet, we're going to accredit your protocol, we want to accredit the individual. For sure.
And we kind of hammered on this a little bit in our Cambridge interview in London. Shout out. Consistency, right? Right.
Yeah, did my associates there.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I didn't know they did those. But it's all about, when it comes to research, consistency and reproducibility, right?
Absolutely.
And now you can track that.
And you can't do that until now.
Right.
I mean, so
there's no other way.
There is. What do people do for research? They fly on an airplane to go and hang out at a place for 1 or 2 days. Right. And say, okay, everybody.
Off with.
I hope
you
it's
got
good.
It right.
Yeah. Good, right? Yeah. Here, yeah.
And they're like, I think this is close.
Yeah. But then how do you actually continue to monitor those people in that study?
Right.
So when it comes to remote scanning, when it comes to internal staff assessment, who is your most consistent? Who are your rock stars? When it comes to pharmaceutical quality assurance.
Right.
There's only one way forward, and that is human quantitative assessment.
Analysis, right? Wow. Well, Matt.
So,
Well, one last question before we wrap up.
sure.
If someone was interested of combining a report with their resume, it's not like this wouldn't be accessible from like an individual. Say they want to work at, I don't know, some prestigious place, and they're like, hey, look at my scores. Is there a way that people can access it individually, or is it just for the organization?
No. So our students can be able to go through and export all of their ScanLab scores, their angles, their
Right.
And some of them are doing it in case of like adding it to their resume to do screenshots and putting it on there as well.
Okay.
And as ScanLab becomes more and more accepted throughout the country, throughout Europe and Asia, hopefully South America soon, it will be that Carfax score. It will be that Uber score that you can be able to come through. But I mean, our students have easy access to be able to grab their scores and even be able to pull it up for an employer and be able to show them.
Awesome.
So it's kind of a rolling resume that you have complete access to.
Well, once again, Matt, thank you. ScanLab, Imaging U, any new stuff with Imaging U?
Imaging U, we're coming out with neurology, so MRI neurology. We're doing a quality assurance, or just overall image quality. We're announcing some big partnerships with some magnet manufacturers in the coming days and weeks, to where after you buy a certain magnet, then you will automatically have access to Imaging U for didactics and ScanLab.
Oh, nice.
So that's on the 2 or 3 yard line. So we're hoping to have that done maybe today. So
touchdown.
We'll see. I mean, we want to make it so where this is super accessible for everyone.
Right.
With these new magnets that are going in across the world, the Freemax, the Freestar, these low helium magnets.
Right.
How are you going to put this in the rainforest and expect someone to actually
Know
they got access, but how do they know what they're doing? So this is a great thing for remote coaching, for monitoring the overall outcomes of these people. Because we always say at ScanLab and Imaging U, we don't sell products, we sell outcomes, and we can prove it with those quantitative metrics.
Data. Man, love what you're doing for the industry. Appreciate what you're doing, making technologists better, giving us access to show how good we are. So when we're in those meetings trying to get that and boost and raise, we'll be like, hey, look at my scores.
Check me out.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, Zone 3 Podcast. Make sure you guys come check out his booth if you're here. You'll still be here till Wednesday?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, this probably won't get posted till August.
So you'll be a tad late.
So it might be a tad late, but if you do show up, come see us.
Hold on, let's get down real quick. Just we say like Zone 3, we're out.
Zone 3, we're out.